Welcome to the Firehouse Roundtable podcast, brought to you by the Ventura Fire Foundation. My name's Peter McKenzie. I'm one of the hosts. I'm a retired fire captain with the City of Ventura Fire Department.
And I'm Jason Kay. I'm an active fire captain also with the Ventura Fire Department.
And we are excited that you are going to spend some time with us at the kitchen table, learning about firehouse issues that we're trying to bring awareness to.
Thanks for joining us as we discuss the issues of being a firefighter, both on and off duty, and how it affects us.
Let's get right to it. All right, welcome to another episode of the Firehouse Roundtable. Jason, how's it going?
It's going good. I had a couple fire department classes that I took this week, so it's been busy. And we have a celebrity with us coming up on the show. Our first celebrity, Hope the therapy dog, is going to be on today. And she has been on the news lately. She's been on social media. I know Fox LA did a little run about her story in KTLA. So it should be fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I know that when I was retiring, she was just getting here, so I met her a few times. But she was we were talking earlier. She was a tiny little puppy. I don't remember how old she was, but it sounds like she's not so little anymore and a little bit more grown up, which is fun to see. But yeah, excited about bringing Heather and the team that we got the dog from, which is another nonprofit in the area. So excited to see what they have to say.
It should be fun. Let's get into the show.
All right. I'd like to welcome Nancy Mitchell and Heather Ellis to the show. We're excited to have you both here talking about a topic that I think everybody loves, or should love anyway, dogs. But before we do that, let's give Nancy and Heather a second to introduce yourself to our listeners. Quick bio, a little bit about yourself. So Nancy, why don't you go first?
Sure. Well, thanks for having us on, first of all. My name is Nancy Mitchell. I am born and raised in Ventura County. So I am a California girl. I am currently a registered nurse. I teach our future nurses at Cal State Channel Islands here in Camarillo. I started the nonprofit VIP dog teams in 2016. We have 13 dogs out training right now, and we train for therapy and facility work. We particularly focus on getting dogs into fire stations, police stations, and schools. That's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to getting into the reasons and the why you started, all that stuff. But before we do that, let's introduce Heather. And I think most of our listeners know who Heather is, but for the ones that don't, Heather, why don't you give us a quick intro on you?
All right. Thank you very much. I'm Heather Ellis. I'm the EMS Coordinator for Ventura Fire Department, and I am Hope's handler here with the department. Previously, I am from Indiana, where I was a firefighter paramedic for the better part of 20 years. In addition to holding my nursing license, I am still a certified paramedic, even though not accredited at the moment.
All right. Well, let's get into this. The reason we're here is because obviously the Ventura Fire Department has this new, what's the proper term that we use for Hope? What is her title?
She is our canine therapy dog.
Gotcha. And she's the cutest little thing. And I think everybody's seen her because she's splashed all over our social media and whatnot. But let's back up a few steps. And Nancy, before we get to Heather being the handler, Nancy, how did this all come about? And, why are we doing this? Why is it important? A little background on the issue in general.
Sure. So we are doing this because we feel it's very important to support our first responders who go out there every single day and literally put their lives on the line for us. So it's our way of thanking all of those people, all the men and women who do that. All of the dogs that we train for fire, police, and school are gifted to the organizations. So we were looking at, actually, Asher went to the police station first, and Heather caught wind of that and said, wait a minute, where's our dog? I said, that's fine. If you guys would like a dog too. We really like when the department or organization comes to us and asks for a dog, because then we know the want is truly there. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. And Heather will definitely attest to that. So we need the commitment. So we were looking at different dogs, and we found a dog that we thought was very suitable. We test our dogs quite a bit, even as puppies. Hope went to the fire department at 4 months old, She had been with a previous breeder who thought she might be great for this job. She tested her back in Pennsylvania before she came out. When we got here, we took Hope and Ember, which is the sister of Hope, who's also in fire out in Glendale. We took them to the fire station, did all the noises, all the metal, all the banging, the sirens, the everything. And these two girls just looked at us like, yeah, so fabulous. They will be fabulous in this particular environment. So we talked about family lifestyles and the different personalities of those two dogs and chose Hope for Heather and her family and her lifestyle, because this dog works all day in the station area, but then they go home. They get to be a dog and they go home to that family and they get to rest and come back for the next day. So we need the dogs to also be compatible with the families. So Hope ended up with Heather and her family, and we are constantly training. This is the part that's fun, but a lot of work. Hope and Heather come to training right now weekly. Hope just got certified with her Canine Good Citizen, which is an AKC certification. So she is now a good girl going through the public. She's currently working on her Canine Good Citizen Advanced, which is just more public access type of stuff, going on elevators, being in and out of facilities or places that are dog friendly. That'll let her in and out. So we're working on that one. And then she will go on to do her actual therapy training. So it takes about 1.5 years, sometimes 2 years, depending on the dog, to get all the way through the program. But it is basically our nonprofit's way of thanking all of those people who go out and do this for us every day, especially our firefighters.
So I've had the experience, and I've been lucky enough to be around since the very beginning. And I think I was actually there the day that Hope came, and you guys, we played all the sirens and for all the trucks, and we kind of walked her around, and she looked around like, yeah, so what? Let's keep going. So I thought that was really cool. And Heather was there as well. So let's get into Heather. What did it take? Why did you want a dog? And then what did it take for you to start the process of being a handler?
In all honesty, my first exposure with therapy dogs actually came out of the hospital when I worked as the EMS director back in Indiana. And in all honesty, while I was in my clinicals, I actually saw some of the work that the therapy dogs were doing, and one had a very impactful moment with one of my patients who was a young lady who had Guillain-Barré syndrome at the time, and she was really frustrated because she couldn't take care of herself, and she was truly depressed, and she was at a point that she wouldn't work anymore, and I was assigned to be her student nurse that day. And I actually asked my preceptor, I said, can we see if we can bring a therapy dog in to see her? They would rotate him through the ER, and I just saw the cheer and joy and the attitude changes between the staff and patients in general every time the dogs were through. And they said yes, but I had to get a physician order. I walked through all the pieces, and the therapy dog was able to come in, and truly, not only was it a meaningful moment for the patient, but also a meaningful moment for the handler as well. The handler walked out crying that day, and the dog exhausted. That's the other thing that I don't think a lot of people realize. The dog takes on a lot of emotional energy, and the dog literally left exhausted. But within a week's time, that young lady changed from not being able to care for herself at all to she walked out very slowly on her own 2 feet. And she couldn't even bear weight a week ago because she just didn't want to anymore. She didn't want to try. She was so discouraged. And that was a moment to me that I went, this is really super important. And then from there, seeing how many more suicides across the nation are impacting the fire service, and knowing that as a responder myself, what I've saw, what I've done, how it impacts me, and how I raised my own children and things of that nature. We carry a lot of burdens, and I can see where these animals help relieve some of that stress. They take on the energy, but they help us release good hormones that make us feel better and are able to take on the next task. And so that was why it was really important, and actually had been something I had wanted to do since I actually started here with the department. So when Nancy walked through the doors, I was like, oh my goodness, what a huge opportunity for us.
Let's talk a little bit about what are the benefits? Like, why do we have the dog? Like, I think people in general know therapy dogs, but why in the fire service is this important to do? Like, what is the research showing? You know, what are the effects that we're trying to solve for with the dog? Either of you, if you want to chime in.
Research shows that interacting with a dog in general, but a therapy dog in particular, because they are so much better trained than our average dog, I would say. But research shows that your blood pressure is lowered, your stress levels are lowered. You produce, like Heather was just saying, you produce hormones that are serotonin, which is a happy hormone. So that enriches you. There's a lot of really good research done that it improves health. So it helps with healing. And like Heather was saying, just the attitude of getting better, you have to have the attitude. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to. And if you're depressed, it's not going to happen. So this dog, or the dogs in general, are the avenue that we're using to help with healing and overall mental health. The peer support program is the program that all the firefighters, we have 4 fire dogs out right now, and all of those personnel are part of peer support. So we are just adding to what you guys are already doing, because there is a big push for mental health, for peer support, for helping our staff and their families to get through this and to be able to function and have a fabulous life on a daily basis. So we are, again, just trying to support that.
Yeah, awesome. I think for me, it's like you can take what could be like a crappy situation, or, you know, some rough calls or some rough days, and you see the little dog running around, and it just makes it a little better, right? That's huge. Like, that matters. I just wanted to just get it out there for our listeners. Like, why are we messing around with a dog and talking about a dog on this podcast? The reason is because it helps, and there's a ton of research and stuff to back that up. And I'm just glad that we have a dog now. So that's awesome. I'm curious what the actual training looks like for the dog. Like, what do you guys do to prepare these dogs?
It all starts when they're about 3 days old, literally. We do a program called neurostimulation, which gives them very small stressors that start helping them as they go throughout their puppyhood be able to handle bigger stressors. When they're 8 weeks old, when they're 7 weeks old, we temperament test them and check to see who has the right temperament for the right kind of job, because they all have different temperaments. We try to pick with a mom and a dad what we're looking for, but it's genetics. We get different things. Then they start into a puppy program, literally at 8 weeks old. So they go through just their basic puppy training, getting introduced to where they're supposed to go to the bathroom. I mean, all the just basic dog stuff. They go through basic obedience for their first year, along with a ton of socialization, a ton of very safe exposure, meeting all kinds of different people, being in all kinds of different situations, and seeing how they handle that. We never force a dog to do a job. We've had a couple dogs released from our program recently because it just wasn't their cup of tea. They weren't happy doing what we needed them to do. So they are now pets in very great, nice families. But for our therapy dogs in training, we're seeing these dogs weekly. We have a group of about 6 dogs that Hope is part of that are all about the same level. And they come weekly, they get a couple weeks off, and then they come back for another 6 weeks. So it's 6-week training courses. Like I said, they just passed their Canine Good Citizen. They will now go through the advanced version of that, take a couple weeks off, and then they'll come right back and do their therapy training. So it's about 1.5 years, sometimes 2 years. So back to your question about what they do. Heather, would you mind talking a little bit about some of the things? Hope has already been extremely helpful, in my opinion, to Ventura Fire. We tried to wait till she was about 1 year for her to be doing any debriefs because we just wanted her to have that maturity. But she recently participated in some things. I'm not sure what you're allowed to talk about, Heather, but whatever you can, I think it would be appropriate.
We actually had a critical call recently that very unfortunate with someone younger in our community, and we felt it important to bring in peer. So our peer support representatives came in and did a quick debrief with not only our crew, but the AMR crew, which is our partner ambulance service. And what I have to say in particular about that is that Hope knows our people. She's happy to see any of our guys in uniform. She knows when the engine goes by and we're outside. She's like, she stops and she's watching, and it's like she knows these are my folks. But she was really happy to see her crew, the crew that came in. But she didn't know the people from the ambulance service. And there were a couple of lesser experienced crew members that day. And I found it really interesting to watch Hope interact with them. She initially greeted our crew. She spent time with them. But then as we were actually talking about feelings, emotions, what they saw, and how they were in the very early stages coping with that, to see where Hope put herself. She kept tapping at their legs. She would lay on top of their feet. And she really just focused on those two, where everybody else in the room had had quite a bit of experience with the type of call that they had just had, but these two folks had not. And I think she actually gave them the ability to talk a little more openly, to be quite honest. They would pet her while they were talking, and I think that it made them more comfortable, which we know that our buckets get full. And we needed them to be able to empty part of that bucket so they could go out for the next call that day. And I think that she helped them quite a bit with being able to do that.
That's cool. My first experience was kind of similar when we first brought on the peer support team and got that whole thing running. Heidi Dullum was one of the leaders of that program, and she kind of started the program out. We had Miles on a few weeks ago on the show. And my first experience with peer support was when Miles got hurt and all the guys at the station, we called a peer support leader out. Heidi came out. She brought her personal dog, which is just this big lab, just the kind of dog that just kind of leans on everybody and is super sweet. And more than anything, the dog kind of roamed around and changed the atmosphere to that classic dog unconditional love atmosphere, where there's no judgment, of course, because it's a dog, but the dog always wants to love people and to just be there, and it makes the whole room more comfortable. So that's what I've seen with Hope too. As soon as she enters a room, the room dynamic changes immediately. And even if it's just a supportive measure and a way for people to be more comfortable, she definitely brings that. Heather, I want to ask you, since you know just a little bit about EMS, tell me about the CEs that you got to do with Hope to keep up all her certifications. And then I think you're spending pretty much 24/7 with her, right? I see her everywhere that you go. So what does that look like on your day-to-day basis, and what kind of certs do you have to keep up with her?
We're obviously, as Nancy said, we're working through her training program. I've completed my peer support training, and we will actually work to be a deployable resource, which will include additional training once all of her therapy training is concluded and Hope is certified. Right now, it is, as much as we have to go once a week for training, that's still training every single day. We have to go through every one of Hope's skills and work with her every day. We can't, especially if I'm gone, Hope, she's here, is still as an available resource. We have to play catch up when I come home, because depending on, typically when she is with a sitter, so to speak, they work with her, they know her commands, they know what she needs to do, but as her handler, we have to make sure that we're rebonded really well and that she is doing what is asked of her all the time. When we lost our firefighter this past fall, Hope did a lot of work with our crews and just in regards to overall interaction, just trying to bring some joy back into the firehouse in any way that we could. One of the things that we had to actually do with Hope after that is she had to take a bit of a break. And that was in regards to socialization and in regards to crowds and things like that, because she actually was being a bit of an adolescent overall. She was being a teenager and she was a little overstimulated, and we had to bring that back just a bit and then reintroduce her. And again, I think part of it is she took on a lot of energy during that time, and she was still a young girl in regards to being a puppy, and she didn't have all that maturity that she needed for some of that energy that she took on. And that in itself, that took a little bit of work to undo, and putting her back out into social environments. She literally goes almost everywhere with me, on duty, at work, and off.
Okay. I know that another one of your projects that you're involved in is the foundation ball, and that was kind of your baby last year. We started that. That's really cool. And I heard that you took Hope with you to the planning of the next foundation ball coming up at the Crown Plaza. Have you had any problems bringing her in public places? Does she have to have some kind of certification to go everywhere with you?
Yeah, so that part is really complicated because as a therapy dog, she's not a service dog. So she doesn't have free access to any location. Most places are very open in regards to Hope being able to come in, but there are some stores and places like that that are very clear, service dogs only, and we try not to violate any of those expectations, especially because she's still learning some of her manners. She did get her good citizenship, but sometimes the lab comes out on her and she's super excited. And so we don't want to put her in an environment where people will look poorly upon her. But she goes out to eat with us constantly. We just try to pick venues that she'll be able to eat outside with us. And then a lot of stores accept her in. It's okay. But for the most part, we'll never be able to fly on a plane unless she's a deployable resource because she's not a service dog. So unless she's being deployed and she has like a FEMA free card or whatever, that's not going to happen. So
what's involved in getting that?
For FEMA?
Yeah, to be a deployable resource.
That'll be additional training. There's some courses that I'll have to take, and then she has to show that she's passed all the necessary therapy training and things of that nature. And for the most part, to be quite honest, I think she'll probably only be deployed here locally in California, but those are all things that we can evaluate as she achieves more of her educational goals.
Yeah, I don't want her going too far anyway.
She'll actually be doing therapy work for 6 months, and then she's eligible to train for crisis.
Okay.
So she will go through crisis training, as Heather will also go through crisis training. One of VIP dog team's goals is to create a crisis team for Ventura County so that we can have dogs at the ready and get deployed and be able to go into crisis things similar to borderline shooting, the Thomas fires, those type of things that have affected our county, and be able to stay within our own county. So that is something we're working on as well.
Hey, this is Joe Booth from the Ventura Fire Foundation. To learn more about the foundation and our programs, visit our website at www.venturafirefoundation.org. 100% of our funding comes from generous donors. And if you like what we're doing, I encourage you to become a donor. It's very easy. Just go to our website, again that's venturafirefoundation.org, and click the red donate button at the top. Whether it's $5 or $5,000, every donation helps ensure local firefighters thrive.
Heather, what are you seeing as the, is this working? Or like, what's your assessment of how it's going in general, Hope, and how she's received and what impact she's having, that kind of stuff?
Because of my assignment being in headquarters, for instance, I can tell you that the overall mood, I think, of here in particular, when she hits the door, it changes. There's an entire shift. She starts out, I take her off leash and she makes rounds. And she's astonished on days that, let's say I come in on a Friday that is a dark Friday for the office, and she goes to make her loop because she goes and hits every single office and she wants to see her people. And she's like, where is everybody? You hear the tone of people's voices change. You see people literally getting up from their desk and playing, throwing a ball with her for a little bit because they're resetting their own minds. When we walk into a station, again, it's the same thing. Everybody's like, Hope's here. And people are up out of their chairs. They're up from the table. People take her out back at Station 5 and they throw her toys. And in general, it's just, she brings joy to people's faces. You can just see it. You can see an overall shift in people's moods the moment that she walks in the door. And that is the impact that I wanted her to be able to have. The impact to help change that cortisol level that is bogging all of us down every day because we're tired and we don't always get to eat the right foods that we need to. All of those things, she has the ability for people who like dogs and find that positive energy from them. She has that ability to bring that out in them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Does the city have a big budget for Hope? Like, do you have unlimited funds to take care of Hope?
We have zero funds to take care of Hope. So most of her care has come to date out of my budget, but the foundation has been very gracious to be a supporter for Hope. And when I say my budget, I mean my personal budget, not the budget, any line item from the city itself. But the foundation has graciously taken her on to help with her care. And one of the biggest things, we just always want to make sure that she has health insurance that we pay for, but there is a deductible. So if she was to have something major occur, we always want to make sure that there's that availability of funds to pay her deductible so she can get the medical care that she needs. Having that always available from the funds raised from the foundation is exceptionally important to me, just to know that if she has a medical emergency, I can go to the vet. And if they say she has to have surgery right now, we go, okay, well, she has health insurance. Here's the deductible. We'll work with her insurance, but to know that we can get her what she needs, because I think it would be a devastating loss to all of us if something were to happen to her.
She's definitely part of the fire department now, for sure.
Yeah, and the foundation is happy to support her, and obviously all of our funds come from donors and people who support the foundation. So if you're listening and you want to help support Hope, the therapy dog, make a donation to the foundation, because we committed to offsetting any expenses related to what she does happily. So I think it's a good thing. I think the impact is clear. I don't know anybody who's saw Hope and went, oh, just get that dog away from me. Like, I don't think that happens with her, right?
Everybody's a dog person somewhere inside of them. I have a question for Nancy. Heather touched on it just a little bit. What breeds do you look for in a therapy dog, or do you only do one type of breed of dog yourself? Or tell me a little bit about that.
Any breed can do therapy work. It's really more about the temperament, but the breeds that we find to be more successful overall are the lab, the golden, and the poodle. And even this Cavalier, which Hope is part as well. So we deal with a lot of Labradoodles, Golden Doodles, and Hope technically is a Cavador Doodle, but honestly, really, she's a Labradoodle. The Australian Labradoodle is a lab, a poodle, and a cocker, American and English. Hope is a lab, a poodle, and a Cavalier Spaniel. So it's basically the same thing. I actually prefer the Cavalier over the English American, but we need a dog who loves people. And we all know our labs and our Goldens love their people. We need a dog who is very trainable and smart. And that's where we throw that little bit of poodle in, because we know our poodles are the second smartest dog right behind a border collie. And we need a dog who can chill. I mean, honestly, they spend a lot of time hanging out waiting. That combination we find a lot in our labs, our labs and our Goldens, and then we intermix that poodle and we end up with some doodles. It's also really nice, especially for you guys in uniform, when we can have a dog that is very low to no shed. that helps. And it actually helps for the community too. When people are allergic, a lot of our dogs, it's okay because they are as hypoallergenic as a dog can be. And that helps too, because we have some of our dogs who go out to do hospital work in different places like that. Schools even too. That's a big deal for the schools. They want a dog that's a low or no shed dog.
And I heard that, first of all, are the dogs that you train, how many have had more than one litter? Are they all the same mom and dad dog, or have you bred more than one litter?
So to date, we've only bred one litter. All of our other dogs have come from breeders, and 5 breeders donated dogs this past year.
Oh, wow.
Which is just
That's neat.
Fabulous. We've built a reputation with these breeders. They see what we're doing. They like what we're doing, and they want to be a part of it. So they have donated dogs. Now, I've flown to Philadelphia. I've flown to Utah, to the Carolinas, to different places to pick these guys up as puppies because they are just little tiny things. So I'll fly out there, scoop them up, and bring them back. So that's, the cost that our nonprofit picks up, which is nothing compared. These dogs sell anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 from a breeder, and that's what they're donating. So it's fabulous that they'll do that for us.
What do you have invested into the dogs? Like from your organization and the work they do up until you hand it off to a handler, and then what is like the estimated, or I don't know if you have the data or not, but once you give it to the fire department, what's the financial commitment look like over time? And so 2 questions, sorry to confuse you. What do you have invested into them roughly from a cost perspective? And then what can the department that gets them expect as far as cost?
What we have invested into them varies per dog because it depends on how far away I flew or whether they did get donated or not. But we figured a rough estimate of their first year costing about $35,000 to $4,000. Is their first year because of all the equipment and the different things that they'll need from the beginning. So if you figure on average, a dog is about $4,000 or $5,000 to purchase. And then it's another at least 4-ish in their first year. We're talking about $10,000 the first year. And then maintenance wise, it's food, health insurance, the training, all the training we do, we offer for free. So that portion is, because otherwise that would be another couple thousand a year. So I would say roughly about $10,000 in their first year.
Gotcha.
And then about 2 to 3 in maintenance, just depending on what all they need and whether they end up at the vet or not. Gotcha.
And then you're supported completely. You guys are a nonprofit. VIP Dog Teams is a nonprofit, or how are you guys?
We are a nonprofit, 501c3.
Yeah. What does your organization look like?
So we have a board, and it consists of the president, which is myself, our vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. And then we have an advisory board, which is about 6 or 7 individuals in the community that we can get advice from, people like business owners, CPA, heads of schools, heads of other departments who have agreed to be on our advisory board so we can tap into the community and see what's happening. But all of our funds are donations. We had a couple grants in the beginning because we were rescuing dogs. We started this whole program back in 2016 by rescuing dogs from our local shelter, placing them into our local jail out at Todd Road, and teaching the inmates how to train those dogs for therapy work.
Oh, wow.
Because we didn't have any money. So that's how we got started. And it was a fabulous program. It went on for about 2 years. And then one of the commanders that came in thought it was too time consuming. So they decided to move on. And then we made friends with some breeders and built our reputation. Like I said, we've had 1 litter so far. I didn't see the success as high as I wanted to in that litter. We have 3 dogs working from that litter that are just a little over 1 year old now. And I don't know if you guys know, but Hope is our next hopeful future mama. We are hoping to be able to breed Hope. We're super picky about our dogs that are bred. They get DNA tested. They get Orthopedic Foundation of America OFA tested for their hips, their elbows. They get tested for their eyes and their heart. So far, Hope has passed her DNA. And Heather, I just got this morning her heart came back and she passed that. So we're waiting to get the results on her hips and her elbows. And then if she passes all that, she definitely has the temperament that we're looking for. We would be breeding her with one of our working boys. We have a boy in the school system that's 3 that works at an elementary school and serves about 600 kids every day. And he's got a fabulous temperament. So fingers crossed, Hope passes everything, and then we can be able to breed Hope.
What age do you like to breed the dogs at?
So we let them all go through their first heat. And then after they're a year old, we do all their testing. And that's all preliminary testing. And anywhere between 1.5 years and 2, depending on their heat cycles.
Okay, that makes sense. Heather, I'll transition to your side, your perspective here. From when you got Hope, what's kind of the cost associated with having her? And obviously there's a huge time commitment, but what do you see as far as cost of food and vet bills and training and certs and all that kind of stuff?
It really just depends. I mean, food, we average because we don't feed them just any food, and she's got a lab tummy, so it can be a little sensitive sometimes. So her food is probably close to $200 a month. And then vet bills, just again, there's her preventative, there's her monthly fee for her health insurance, which I believe is like around $65 a month. And then she's already had one quick trip to the emergency vet because of her sensitive tummy. So, that was an unexpected cost. So I would average maybe $200, $250 a month. She does like her treats, or as she knows them to be, her Treatos. And again, we just can't just pick any. I try not to pick just any milk bone or whatever. We try to make sure that she's getting good stuff because we want her life to be as long as we possibly can. So she can continue to serve not only our fire family, but maybe even eventually in some capacity our community as well.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, this has been great. One last question for you, Heather. So it's just for the firefighters now? She's not like going out, like you said, outside of our little ecosystem, or?
Yeah, no, right now she's just with the fire department. We do hope to initiate a grief project where she gets a little farther along in her training, where if a captain sees a need on a scene that maybe the family could also benefit some from using Hope as a resource, they could request for her to be deployed out to a scene. And in particular, the thought there is, again, if we can provide that additional comfort to a family, it helps reduce the stress to our firefighters. Because that in itself, when we have a family who's maybe had an unexpected loss, their grief, we as responders tend to take that on. And if we can help provide comfort through Hope, that also helps our responders in a little bit different way. So hopefully we'll be able to get that project off the ground once she's a little farther in her training.
Hope has already done a video. If you guys haven't seen it, her fire safety video.
I have not.
So she's already helping educate.
Yeah, if we can get the link to it, we'll put it in the show notes for our listeners for sure.
So Hope knows how to stop, drop, and roll.
Oh, nice. That's funny.
That's cool. I work in the kind of the USAR world, urban search and rescue, and we deal with dogs in a lot of the trainings with that. And the handlers will say, look for anything different that the dog does. Obviously, the handlers know all the reactions that the dog has. In that same thought process, is there anything that Hope does, Heather, that you see that you can kind of catch on to that she's telling you, I need to be over by this person, or there's somebody hurting in this way? Or is that something that you've seen start with her?
Absolutely. She is really good about laying at people's, like, on their feet. And typically, again, with the one crew that we debriefed, that's one of the things that she did. All of a sudden, she has found a person, and oftentimes it's completely unexpected, and she is like on their feet or wrapped kind of around their legs. I think to some level, it's her version of a hug, but that is one of her tells. She is very much a social dog, so we really haven't encountered too much of her like being standoffish with anybody. So again, if she was to cue me by maybe the way she's holding her tail or pulling back from someone, I wouldn't make her go to that environment because she's trying to tell me that it's not safe. She has become a little protective in headquarters because we had somebody in the lobby here a couple months ago who was throwing things and was yelling, and she felt at that very moment it was her job to protect. So she's very more alert, I think, and in tune ever since that happened. But as soon as she sees, hey, everything's great, you're here to see me or not, doesn't matter, I'll come see you anyway. And again, she'll tag people pretty quickly that, hey, I need to lay with you, or I need to see you. Yesterday, she was with new recruits, and it was very interesting to see her. Their stress level's high, and she just popped herself under one of the desks, rolled over, and was like, I think you need to visit with me.
And is that a common thing, Nancy, with dogs, where they'll kind of lay at people's feet as not only submission, but this is the person I should be with?
So that's what we look for and we hope for. And not every dog does it. It is a very special thing when a dog can have that intuition and they know when someone needs them. And that is the just icing on the cake for a therapy dog for us, because most of our dogs that are successful, that's what they do. They know when someone needs them. And again, like you hit it right on the head. The handler needs to be able to identify the body language of their dog. They need to have a really good trusting relationship and be able to tune in. And then you will see your dog do that to you. My dog in particular gives me what I call the look. We go into hospitals and do work in rehab, and he's polite to everybody. That's great. But if someone really needs him, he will go in and just dig in deep and get on their lap and get underneath it. I've seen him get underneath someone's hand. Someone recently had a right-sided stroke, so they had a left-sided weakness and said they couldn't use their left hand. And I saw him put his head up underneath that left hand. Like, no, use this hand to pet me. This is what you need. And when he's done, the therapist said, well, how do you know when he's done? I said, oh, yeah. He gives you the look. She's like, what are you talking about? And the second he went into people who really didn't need him, he turns in his head and just looks at you like, okay, we're done. She's like, wow,
we're done here.
It is a look. I said, oh yeah, you have to tune into your dog, and they definitely let you know.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to share with our listeners about your organization or ways to reach out to you guys? Or
Absolutely. I have a very big ask, and it's a lot of fun. So it's in the same breath. It's big, but it's fun. We are looking for puppy raisers for our next litter, which we're hoping to have in the summertime. You can be anything from a full-time raiser, part-time raiser, or a puppy sitter. We're looking for all the above. We hope to have a couple of puppies at least, depending on how many raisers we get, that will be raised by families who can go through the training, who can do the socialization, who can do all those things before we move a dog into their job. Because as Heather has attested to, it is a lot of work. And there are a lot of people that can't do that adequately and do their job. So it's a super important position. And yes, you do move the dog along. And that's the part that is a little tough. But you get to see that dog working and helping tons of people, because therapy dogs help many, many people. So we are looking for puppy raisers. If you're interested, you can jump onto our website. And I don't know if you guys want to put a link in there, or we can.
Yep, absolutely. It looks like it's VIPdogteams.org. Is that the right one?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll make sure we have a link to it. And hopefully we find you some puppy raisers. I'm sure I can think of a lot of people who would be interested in that. I think the hard part would be having to watch them move along after you spent time with them. But awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Heather, any last comments or thoughts on what you got going on?
I don't think so. I think that most importantly, I want to say it's a privilege to be Hope's handler. It's a privilege to be able to help our responders decompress and make sure that not only their physical well-being is being taken care of, but their emotional and mental health is being taken care of as well. And we know that this is a tough job, and Hope definitely has a place in there. And I just want to say that I am extremely grateful that I have had this opportunity, and I wouldn't change one moment of it. No matter how tough it gets, and no matter how much of a teenager or a toddler she behaves like, she is one of the best things I think that I hope that I've been able to bring to the organization. And in that being said, I know she will bring so much more as her training progresses.
And as one of the first responders who benefits from Hope and everything that she brings, we appreciate the fact that you were willing to take that on, Heather. So I just wanted to let you know that we do appreciate what you're doing as well.
Yeah, and from the foundation, we're definitely fortunate to be able to provide the financial support for making Hope happen. Hopefully, we turn Hope into a little bit of a local celebrity. And do you find people recognizing who she is when you're out and about? I mean, she's been all over our social media and those types of things. But
yes, she is starting to get recognized actually quite a bit, especially the more kids are starting to see her and things like that. So it's pretty fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Heather. Another great episode. Hopefully we find some puppy raisers for Nancy's organization. And if you guys are interested in supporting what we're doing with Hope, please log on to the foundation website, make a donation. You can even tag on there that you want your funds to go to the Hope Fund that we've set up. But yeah, excited to have you guys on, and glad we're able to bring some awareness to this awesome program. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us.
Wow, that was interesting. A lot of information that I didn't necessarily know about therapy dogs and their impact and whatnot. Yeah, what did you think, Jason?
It was good. It was a good kind of Q&A session, all things therapy dog, and specifically about Hope. I remember, like you said in the intro, when Hope was a little tiny puppy, and then to listen to the training that she went through and to see her around at the fire stations. And it's almost like having one of your kids kind of grow up and see him mature and kind of grow with the department. It was cool. It was cool to hear all that stuff.
Yeah, I like the fact that she literally goes everywhere with Heather. Like, she's part of Heather, essentially. What's the impact been in the stations from your perspective? Like, and I know we talked about it in the podcast, but when she comes over, do the guys stop what they're doing and go spend time with her? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, 100%. As soon as Hope gets there, as macho as anybody wants to be, that all just goes away. Let's go visit the dog. Let's go play with the dog. Everybody's voice goes up 3 or 4 octaves when they see the dog. It's just like anything else, anybody else's dog. It's a dog that you can trust. So you go right after right away. It's always good.
That's awesome. Let's see. So we got some big events coming up for the foundation that we are definitely looking for some community support for. So we have our firefighters ball, which I don't remember the date, which is a problem. Do you have the date off the top of your head, Jason?
It's in April.
Yeah, April 21st. So we got the ball coming up. We are off looking for organizations, donors to help support with sponsorships. And there's a lot of ways that we can have our donors support us. So if you're interested, please go to the foundation website, venturafirefoundation.org. But that's going to be a good event that kind of celebrates the accomplishments of the guys and what the good work that they've been doing. And there's stuff there about the community and calls and things like that. And my guess, I haven't confirmed this information, but more than likely, Hope the therapy dog will more than likely be there, which maybe that'll get some people that wouldn't normally go to come. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, she's been going everywhere with Heather, so I would assume she'll be going to the ball as well. It's cool to see Heather's little shadow following her everywhere that she goes. And if you want to give to Hope, don't forget, you can get onto the website, and that's another way you can help support Hope, as well as the firefighters that are affected by Hope positively.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jason. Have a great week, and till next time.
Bye-bye.